understand. Sophia, I am crazy about Kate, and I promise.
Hello, and welcome to Rose Play Presents episode 104. As always, I'm your host, Aurian MoonRose, and here on Rose Play Presents, we do things a little bit differently. Instead of having a season where I play a game all the way from the start to finish, and then 3 special episodes, every episode is a special episode. So, I finally was able to find the 6th podcast that I was in, along with Amateurgamer, and perhaps a few other people. I'm not 100% certain who's all in this one, but these podcasts were very important, and I really enjoyed doing them. And now that I've found them again, and hopefully they stay, we'll be going through each of these once sometime after every Rose Play. Or not Rose Play, after every season. So, without further ado, since I am going to be quiet through this one to let it all play out, I will go ahead and see you guys on the next Rose Play Presents with Adama's Review Corner.
Hi everyone, this is Amateurgamer, and I'll be returning to Dealing with Anxiety and Negativity podcast. So joining with us this time will be Aurian. Aurian, say hi. Hi everyone, this is Amateurgamer.
Hey everybody.
So yeah, unfortunately it's still us two, so yep, it's just us two. So as the title suggests, DWAAN Podcast, Dealing with Anxiety and Negativity, we are dealing with some serious topics, and do note that we are not professionals. We are just average people talking about our own lives, our views, and basically, if anyone wants to listen, we'll give our point of view on certain topics. And basically, we'll be continuing in this podcast where we discuss a specific topic, and the podcast itself won't be very long. It'll be around half an hour. So the topic we're covering today is being grateful. Now, why is being grateful important? I personally think that, a lot of times we are really fortunate in what we have, like the people around us, environment we grow up in, the country. I mean, there are people who are living lives we couldn't imagine. I mean, we might play games which might give us an insight, but nothing beats the real experience. I mean, just take for example, like people who are in countries where there are conflicts. I mean, can you imagine living a life where you have to worry if the soldiers might come and hurt you or your loved ones? An explosive might, suddenly be somewhere along your path and you don't, like, you get maimed as a result. It's just crazy how a lot of us, even with the problems we face, it really pales to what some people are facing in other parts of the world. And I feel that being grateful means that you look at things from a different perspective, and as a result, you'll be more positive because you'll be realizing that, hey, at least I'm not this person experiencing these problems, because otherwise, not only do I have to worry about this, I have to worry about that. Now, Aryan, what are you grateful about in your life?
Well, I'm going to go into a multi-subject here on this one. But first of all, I am grateful to be able to, do these podcasts for one. I think they're very helpful, and I'm I'm hoping that it at least somewhat helps people a little bit. I'm also, of course, grateful that gaming was created, obviously. Now, you were talking about how people do have it worse off, and I do agree. Like, I'm grateful for the place I can live in, the food I have, the family that I have. Some people don't have family, some people don't have a house to live under. However, right now, more than anything, at this particular time of the recording, I'm very grateful for my life right now because um, since we're having problems with, I suppose you could say North Korea right now, or our president. I'm not sure which one to really talk about with it, but our in the United States right now, our president threatened to bomb North Korea. So we're all kind of over here biting our nails, hoping, oh dear God, please don't, because they've threatened to nuke us. So, like, I'm grateful to be alive right now because right now I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to continue what I love and that a lot of people's lives are going to be ruined and a lot of deaths. So, yeah, being grateful really hits a high for me right now. And I'm not saying other people don't have it worse. Obviously, people who don't have a home don't get a meal more than once a week. That's still pretty bad. And that should be number one on the list right now. But yeah, I know I'm personally grateful for everything, and including, like I said, life at the moment, because just thinking about not being able to record for anybody really just kind of scares me right now.
So yeah, the the thing about being grateful, like I said earlier before Aurian's turn, it changes your perspective. I mean, I'll make a quick example. I'm not sure if the stat is still true or not, but I remember at one point reading about child poverty being the highest in BC in all of Canada. And one thing you gotta remember, Canada is seen as a first world country. A country that has fully developed, has a lot of good things to offer to its people. And yet there are people who are starving. I mean, I was brought to Canada at a very young age, but my parents worked hard so I didn't have to starve. I mean, I know that, malnutrition can really hurt a person further down the road, and because of my parents, I didn't have to deal with that. And one of the reasons why I say it changes perspective is, say right now with my issues, like nothing's going my way, and it feels like I really need to work hard to get back on track. But just imagine if, say, when I was a child, my family struggled, so we only have 1 or 2 meals a day as opposed to 3 meals a day. Maybe due to malnutrition, maybe I'm shorter, maybe my brain is less developed, maybe this, maybe that. And all of these things means that if I wanted to aim for the same dream, it would be that much harder because I would be put further back. So when you're grateful for something, you realize that as opposed to starting at point A, you're starting several points further ahead, so you don't have to cover as much distance. Yes, you still will encounter challenges. Yes, the road won't be easy. It will be a long one where you have to keep pushing, keep working hard, never giving up. But at least you'll know that as opposed to that alternate dimension where you weren't so fortunate, you don't have to cover as much distance, so you can reach your dreams sooner. So you will be able to receive the fruits uh, of your labor much sooner because you didn't have to tolerate those other things. like back to the topic of my parents being immigrants. I mean, it wasn't easy for them, that's for sure. But at the very least, their hard work means that I have the ability to basically accomplish far more than I could have. And for that, I'm personally grateful for my parents who basically gave up a very comfortable life back in China to ensure me that I was able to be pretty much raised here, go to school here, and have these opportunities. Yes, I haven't encountered any success so far, but I feel that with all of these opportunities around me, and as long as I work hard, I actually decide on what I want to do with my life, I will make them proud one.
So yeah, I mean, first I want to go off what Amateur talked about a little bit about how he hasn't really succeeded in life. And honestly, I think that is wrong per se. I mean, he did say it himself that, he started off with more than other people. That's kind of a success right there, honestly. He's right when you say that you have so many levels to fight against if you have less stuff. Like, if you don't have a home, that's not good. If you don't get to eat that much, you don't have a home. If you don't have a job or to be able to support your family, I mean, all those are negative things. So, I mean, the fact that Amateur, me, anybody who has a house, has some form of income coming in, maybe you are scraping by and, it's not okay at the moment, but at least, hey, you're not out on the streets. You're not homeless. I'm going to cough here. You've got nice, clean water. I mean, some countries don't even have nice drinking water. So, I mean, honestly, I think, yeah, Amateur does have the potential. I have the potential to go further, but we have it much easier. But I think just the fact that we are where we are today helps us just, succeed. We've succeeded this far by getting to where we are. Now, as each person has a handicap against them, it does make it more difficult to do something, and it puts more stress on a person. Even if you do have this stuff, maybe you're not getting enough food per month for you and your family. Maybe you're barely scraping by, and that can put a lot of stress on you, which will lead to depression. But, I am still very grateful at the fact that I do have a home to live in. Food, because it puts me a few steps ahead of trying to make a better life, not for me per se, but for my family, future, and present. Somewhat past, but, as each generation gets older, more people. But, I mean, really, I want to be grateful and have success for anything to help future generations, for my family, so that maybe if they have it better off, they can be grateful for what their grandfather did, and maybe they have money, so now they're able to help other people. Oh, well, these people don't have any homes, well, I'm going to buy homes for them because I can. So I'm hoping that being grateful for what I have now and being able to be where I am to move on ahead will make hopefully future generations grateful, which kind of starts a chain reaction, which then helps other people.
And the other reason why I brought up, being grateful is that a lot of people, I mean, me included, tend to compare ourselves with other people, and and oftentimes we compare ourselves with more successful people. Like, for example, maybe for one of my classes, there's someone who's getting 100% in everything, and and most definitely, I'll be wondering why is that guy getting 100% and I'm not getting 100%. And these kind of thoughts make you negative because you feel like you're not as good as them. Maybe they have advantage. I mean, earlier in my life, I did think that some people have a greater advantage over me because their parents have more money, so they could afford better stuff, and because they have better stuff, they're happier, and by being happier, they have the potential to go further in life. And I realize now that that is very unhealthy thinking because you're constantly thinking about how other people have better things than you. Well, guess what? Those better things aren't limited to them. Those better things could be yours as well. You just have to work for it. So what if your parents couldn't afford the newest game, the newest phone, or the newest whatever? Really, in the end, we have to rely on ourselves to get what we want. And I'm not saying steal or doing anything illegal. If you work hard, you will eventually get to a point where you can afford everything you want, where you will have the financial freedom to do what you want because first you worked hard, secondly your hard work has paid off, so now you can afford all these good stuff. And third, you feel successful. See, there's two things that we want to feel in life. First, two things we need. First, we need money. Sadly, in our world, you need some money to survive. Even if you have, enough to, basically you need enough to cover your living expenses and basically everything you need to support you and your family. Second is success, and I'm not talking about like purely reaching the top of, a certain goal, but basically accomplishing your dream so that you feel fulfilled, you feel that you have indeed, you know, mentally, you feel like you're a success story. People look up to you, you feel proud of these moments, you're happy, and yes, you might have moments when you feel down, but at least during those moments, you'll most of the time you'll feel positive, and those times you automatically just feel like you're grateful about everything around you because you worked hard and suddenly everything's coming together. You have a great family, you have a great job, everything's going your way, and at that time feeling grateful is easy. What makes feeling grateful hard is when things aren't going your way and you see other people's successes and you feel like I have failed in life. And not sure about your thoughts, Arian.
Oh yes. Actually, all you talked about, I have a lot of thoughts on. Including one thing that kind of hopefully cheers somebody up about it too, that they can go look at. So first of all, about comparing yourself to others. Honestly, I think that's a human trait we all carry. I mean, even if we'll pretend, even if you're Bill Gates and whoever's richer than Bill Gates, I know somebody is. I'm not going to take the time to look it up, but who knows? Maybe Bill Gates compares himself to this guy because he's still richer, he's more successful, he's done stuff in his life. I think no matter how you look at it, we're always comparing ourselves to somebody, whether for the worse or sometimes even for the better. I mean, I would imagine that some people do compare themselves for the better, but because we do compare ourselves to the worst most of the time, well, to the better, but worse, we're worse than them, it usually tends to depress us and put stress on us, like Amateur said. And there's a video done by College Humor. I forget what it's called. It's like 12 people, 8 people, 6 people who are more successful than you are at your age. And they make jokes about all these people that do this and do that. And I think at the end it does kind of go out on a positive note, but at the same time a College Humor way joke. So I mean, that video sometimes makes me feel better. Um, so you might want to go check it out. Otherwise, back to comparing. See, because when I was younger, even I did it. I mean, I couldn't so much do it over the video game aspect because I really was that kid who probably owned every console and every game because kids would come over and play. Which, to be fair, I was also grateful the kids would come over and I could watch them play. Like I said, I love watching people play as much as I play and being watched, which is kind of why I started doing the show. But there was things in life, like, why does this kid have that and I don't have it, and so on and so forth. Like, we'll just make something up, because I can't quite remember. It's been a long time. But we'll say a Furby. I never had a Furby. So everybody's like, oh, I got this Furby, and we're going to have parties together. And I'm left out. I'm going, well, why don't I have a Furby? And, you know, when there's so many other problems in the world right now, like the hunger, the home situation, and I'm worried about a Furby, but the reason why is because when we're kids, when we're younger, we're usually a lot more ungrateful. Now, I'm not saying all younger people are ungrateful. There probably are some that are very, very, oh my God, thank God I have this, thank God I have that, or humble. But a lot of us do end up being ungrateful in a large spectrum or even a small spectrum. And then finally, I'd like to also add that I think there is one more thing that people want besides the money and, you know, the rest of it. And I think that's acceptance. I think a lot of time people want acceptance, you know, to justify what they're doing is right and not wrong. I mean, people might not feel as grateful until people are all like accepting of it. Like, oh, this guy does this and he does that. And the person overhears them. So it's a form of acceptance, because if people are acceptance towards it, they think that what they're doing is right, that maybe there isn't anything wrong. But I think acceptance is also a big part of what people want, because I've heard a lot of times people are always trying to, you know, just gain the approval of somebody, whether it be their parents, their friends, a coworker. And, you know, I'm not saying it's a bad thing per se, you know, unless of course you're like a serial killer and then you're trying to find acceptance for murdering the people you did. So a lot of times they don't want acceptance. But I mean, just, you know, just a bad example of it. So I think acceptance can both be positive and negative, but I'm sure that when people actually give the person acceptance, they do sometimes feel a lot more grateful. Now, whether or not that's grateful in a good way or a bad way, then comes to a whole new situation.
So yeah, basically we're coming to an end to this podcast, and what I want to say to, you know, conclude this podcast is basically, if you're feeling down, just think about the people who are less fortunate than you, because then you'll feel grateful for everything you didn't have to deal with until this point. I mean, everybody have to deal with problems, and these problems could be any shape and size, and you have to overcome them eventually. But at least for those people who are more fortunate, they'll have fewer problems to, deal with along the way, so they could just find their success sooner. So, Aurian, any closing words?
Yes, for my closing statement, and yes, I am running with this on that one. But for my closing statement, we need to be grateful. I mean, I know it's hard to be in life, but just remember that when you don't have something, just think of someone less fortunate than you, and hopefully that keeps you grateful. Like, you're not getting much food. Well, maybe someone's not getting food and they're homeless. So really, I think the main thought here tonight that we're both trying to get across is that if you're grateful, God, I got a cough tonight. So when you're grateful, or well, when you're being ungrateful, maybe even, that there's always someone worse off than you. And you should not only think about them, but at the same time, if you are in a good place and you are grateful, maybe think about helping out. I mean, it could be something small. Just open a door for somebody, or if it's raining and, you have a car and they don't, maybe think about picking them up and taking them somewhere. Now, I do know it's been a lot more dangerous, and picking up strangers could be a bad thing. I mean, do watch yourself, watch for signs, make sure it's safe. But if you're grateful, and you pass it on, it's kind of like how do I want to say it? It's kind of like a good illness. If you're happy and grateful, it could rub off on somebody else.
Well, since Aurian brought up a pretty good point, I'll just add to it before I end this podcast. Like you don't even have to just for strangers. Do it for your loved ones. Like maybe your parents. I know that me and my parents don't always agree on certain topics, but what ends up happening is I know that someday down the road I will realize that they have indeed done everything for the good intentions of me. While the outcome wasn't ideal, their good intentions should be something I'm grateful. So I should really try to spend more time with my parents, try to make them feel more proud. Because I mean, the thing I found a lot of people realize is that as they get older, their parents become, seniors, and they find out that they have less time to make up for what their parents did for them. So you don't have to go out and, help out complete strangers. Just do something nice to those close to you so that later down in life you won't have regrets knowing that you're grateful of someone but you haven't done enough to repay their kindness or whatever sacrifices they made for you. So thank you everyone for coming to the DWAAN Podcast or watching it either on YouTube or VidMe. We definitely appreciate your support and your likes and upvotes. And if you want to talk, message us or leave a comment. We're happy to talk, and at the very least, we're good listeners. So thank you once again, and I'll have a link to the other members of the podcast, and hopefully one of these days we'll get the other members on as well. So thank you once again for coming, and I hope you have a good one. Bye.